In this video, I want to talk to you about stool testing, what you should actually be getting tested inside your gut. If you're new here, welcome to the world of let's talk about poop anytime, any day. If you're not new here, you know that this is such a big part of what we do, because the gut is where so many things start and where so many influences that trickle into like our thyroid and our sex hormones, it all starts. So today I want to talk to you about some markers that I would recommend getting tested. Now we do this in our practice, we do comprehensive stool testing, but I see a lot of people get dismissed or they get their testing done. And then when they get their testing done, it's really like one marker for inflammation, food poisoning bacteria, and potentially parasites. And they're struggling and everything comes back clean. I'm like, well, you don't have any major pathogens, and your inflammation is just this one marker, and I'll talk to you more about that. And it's just like, well, I still don't feel good. And you're kind of left with, well, what do I do? So since we do comprehensive stool testing, I feel like I hear this story multiple different times. And so that's why people tend to look elsewhere and look for non-insurance-based practices and functional medicine practices to be able to utilize and dig a little bit deeper than what insurance usually covers. I'll start off with the inflammation marker. Calprotectin is a really common inflammation marker. It's a good marker, don't get me wrong, but I've also seen lots of stool tests at this point, and I see that calprotectin may be normal, but other inflammatory markers like lactoferrin can be high. And so naturally, if you had higher calprotectin, okay, there's some inflammation, but if it was negative, I feel like there's still some potential of inflammation. So one of the stool tests that we do, we test for like about 5, maybe more. There's some novel markers on there that's still getting tested, but I just love being able to see more of a comprehensive look to see, well, do you have inflammation? So not only testing calprotectin, but also lactoferrin, things like that. One of my other favorite markers for inflammation is this fecal eosinophil protein. Eosinophils are a white blood cell in our body, but they are linked to allergies and or parasites. And so I find this really interesting and I love it because parasites are really tricky to get in stool. They do not drop with every stool dropping. Not a lot of people know that. So if you get negative for a parasite, yes, there's a higher probability you don't have a parasite, but that's technically not ruled out unless you are doing a stool test that has like 3 different times you take the sample. Then that's different and that would be a higher likelihood that you don't have a parasite. But I love this one because who wants to take their stool 3 times? Maybe me. I totally would, but a lot of people don't. And so they'll just take a 1 sample. And like I said, not every parasite drops with every stool dropping. So I love this fecal eosinophil protein to be able to really dig into that. Maybe a hidden parasite or possible food allergies that you could also make a priority to test and move forward. Another marker that I love to get tested, and there are multiple markers, but markers that test for digestive enzyme function, like pancreatic elastase or fecal fat, or things that can give us insight on how you're digesting your food. So are you digesting your fats properly? Do you have enough enzyme production? This is all really helpful because when people can't digest foods very well, like if, for an example, someone has really high levels of fecal fat, that can show that they're not intaking or breaking down their fat. Therefore, they are more likely to have fat-soluble vitamin deficiencies. That's your vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. And obviously, we want to make sure that we are breaking down what we're eating because we're eating it for nourishment. And if we can't break it down, we simply can't take what we need from it. So I highly recommend getting those tested because those can also show answers for the symptoms that you are having. And then gives you the right, when you're working with the practitioner, walking through that and getting the right support. So do you need digestive enzyme support? Do you not? Because digestive enzymes aren't a one-size-fits-all. As with everything, there's no one-size-fits-all supplement, but I am such a fan of getting these things tested and really understanding your body. My favorite thing to get tested, and I would say anyone that claims they know a lot of like everything about gut health is lying because we don't. And I feel like this is still, we know more than what we did 50 years ago, of course, but is there still so much we don't know about the gut microbiome? Absolutely. And so I feel like we're still at the very beginning of learning about the gut microbiome. which is it's funny to think how far science has come, but I still think that there's still so much more to dive into it. But like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, a lot of people just get their food poisoning bacteria tested. And what I want to tell you is that those aren't the only bacteria that can cause issues and your symptoms. These can be things that are underlying, maybe not having enough good bacteria, and maybe having high bacterias of methionine brevibacter or Klebsiella or some other type of bacteria that technically isn't food poisoning bacteria, but when at high amounts will cause issues. And so we see this a lot, and this is a term that you can even look up and start to read. You'll find more scientific stuff on it right now because that's a scientific term, but it's called dysbiosis. So this is something that there's simply an imbalance of good and bad bacteria. And I love assessing to see, okay, what is your balance of bacteria? And are you taking a probiotic that you actually need? Because our stool test is amazing and it tests for actual species. So Lactobacillus acidophilus, Lactobacillus rhamnosus. It doesn't just test like Lactobacillus. It tests more in depth. So you can actually nail down which probiotic you need to be taking because you know what strains that you are low in. Maybe even taking a step further, maybe you need something like natural antimicrobial, things like garlic and oregano. This is not any suggestion. You should definitely be working with a practitioner on this because I see things after people have DIY'd it for so long and it's worse. So definitely work with someone that you trust so you can walk through this process and they can explain it to you and give you the right guidance. I also love testing SIGA. This is secretory IgA. It's an immunoglobulin. And this is representative of our immune system. So this is that mucosal lining inside of our gut. And it's really helpful to know if it's low, which means you're having like a low functioning immune system. And maybe that's a reason why parasites and bacteria and yeast and all of this stuff is getting imbalanced. And then if it's really high, that can indicate that there's something going on. Your immune system is reacting to something. So I love SIGA because it really does give a little snippet into like how your immune system is functioning. This needs to be a marker that is prioritized because we need to know how much support does your immune system need. And if it is your immune system, if it is too low, maybe that's why things are reoccurring and maybe that's why you can't get better. Maybe you have worked with other practitioners, but ultimately it keeps happening and you might get resolved a little bit, but then it keeps recurring. Maybe your immune system needs support and it never really was supported. So I absolutely love this marker. I'm going to pull up a review here that I absolutely adore because this was a client and we still are working together. She's fantastic. But I love what she said, that she was like practitioner hopping and just trying all the different things to really get relief of her constipation and just some GI stuff. And I love that she stated that she has gotten more support and help and results with us than like any other practitioner she's worked with. And I can attest that she has tried so much before us. I was almost intimidated because she tried so much before us. And I'm so glad that we took her on. I'm like, I'm ready for a challenge. I'm up for a challenge. Let's do this thing. So I wanted to share this review with you because I want you to know that I don't want your symptoms or how you feel to be dismissed by any means. You do feel a certain way for a reason, and we are willing to dive and dig into the trenches with you to make sure that you are getting supported the right way, especially diet, lifestyle. I'm telling you, this is the foundation to so many issues. And this can't be just changed by just taking a pill. That's not how this works. We are here to support your body the best way possible. My last marker that I will test for, and I absolutely love, is beta-glucuronidase. I absolutely love beta-glucuronidase because this is an enzyme and it's often triggered to be high when your bacteria imbalance is imbalanced, basically. And so what this enzyme does is as toxins and hormones are trying to leave the body, right? Because pooping is one way that we excrete things that we don't want, and it's ultimate detox right there. But if things are getting unpackaged, those toxins and those hormones are trying to leave the body, but they are like, never mind, let's unpackage them. Let's take them out of their taxi cab and reabsorb them. Well, when this enzyme is high, this actually does exactly that. It reabsorbs the toxins and hormones trying to leave the body through your stool. So we want to make sure that this enzyme is at really good levels and not too high, because now we're going to start creating this body burden of toxins and unnecessary hormones that we're all done with, and women struggling with like estrogen dominance, etc. So I love testing this enzyme really important, and also helps a practitioner say, how much detox support do you actually really need? And that can be from dietary changes and lifestyle changes. Pooping every day, that is a non-negotiable. And yeah, that's markers I absolutely love. Of course, I'm a big fan of getting parasites and yeast, candida, stuff like that tested as well. But if you need help and you are ready to get a really good comprehensive stool test, do not hesitate to reach out to us. I'm going to leave a link below so you can get a feel for how we work as a team, because it's not just me, it's a team of dietitians, and we walk you through this whole process. And on our phone call that you fill out the form on the page, that's when you talk to me, and we'll kind of come up with a game plan of what might be ideal. Do you need a comprehensive stool test like this? And if so, let's get the ball rolling, let's get you set up and on your way to health. So go check out that link in the description, and I'll see you guys next time.